Hi, listeners. Welcome to today's episode. My name is Sandra Balogun, and with me is
Samuel Balogun.
So, obviously, we have guests, right? We're both couples, and on this channel, what we're trying to do is to help to encourage one another in terms of marriage, raising family. And today, we're going to have a topic on
Communication.
Okay,
Communication
yes.
in marriage.
Communication in marriage. In particular, we're talking about things that we may be doing wrong when it comes to communication in marriage, and just helping us remind ourselves of those things so that we can, at the end of the day, know what to be aware of to avoid. If you're new here, I want to say welcome. And let's get right into it. So, dear, what would be one of your points in terms of things that we could be doing wrong, or things that just happen in marriage, especially in communication?
Very, very important question, because communication is very vital to the success of any marriage. I will say one of the things that we need to be very, very about is listening to respond instead of listening to understand. So when, for instance, I'm speaking to you or you're speaking to me, when I am listening, am I listening to respond to what you're saying? Or am I listening to understand what you're saying? Because in communication, whenever you are listening to respond, you're most likely not going to hear the right thing. You're going to be hearing something different. Or whenever you're listening to understand, oh, this is what she's talking about. Okay, now I get it. Most likely it's going to change the dynamics in communication. If you are just listening to, I want to respond to this guy, I want to respond to what he's saying, I can say most likely you're actually not going to get the core.
I feel like as human beings, it's just a tendency that you can get it, especially when you are familiar with the person. You're like, okay, I already know what this person will say, or this is where it's going to end to it, and this is just what I want to say. So it's really a good reminder to say that I want to listen to understand where this point of view is coming from. There's something we say in leadership that in order for you to communicate properly, you need to understand where that person is coming from, and also understand your own view. If not, there's always going to be clashes and conflict because you do not understand that person.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's very valid. Listening to not just respond to the person, but also listening to understand. Any other thing you want to say on that?
Yes, because many times, like I said earlier, when a person is speaking, if you can just listen to what the person is saying, just like what you said, you understand where the person is coming from, and that's going to help that conversation. I just want to say, sometimes some people have what they want to say on their mind already, and at that point, it's kind of a block. Now, you're still listening, or you are really not listening because you already have an idea of what you want to say. And that's not going to help. But sometimes when a person speaks and another person responds, you'll be like, what this person is saying is different from what the other person is saying. How do we reconcile? These people are speaking from two different angles. Why? Because one person is not actually listening, unfortunately. So when a person is listening, if you're saying something, I'm really listening, I want to understand what you're saying. And this cuts across life. It's in the workplace, communication, in any area of your life. When you're speaking, I should understand what you're actually saying, and that's going to guide me in my response. So yeah, I think basically that's yeah.
I know we'll move to the next question, but I feel like this is extremely fundamental, and it's sort of whereby you need to have, or you need to cultivate that attitude of a humbling spirit to be like, do I even understand this person? I'm not saying whether the person is right or the person is wrong. I just even want to understand where this person is coming from, what this person is thinking, what in this person's mind, before I even try to even say that I want to respond. And it takes you to be in a heart position of, I want to be humble enough to understand this person. I just want to. Because there's a part of the scripture that says that through understanding, a house is established. Yeah, so through wisdom, a house is built, but by understanding is established. So do I even understand where this person is at this point in time? So let's move to your second point. What will be the second point?
Yeah, I would say assumption. You should know. I should read my face and know I'm tired. You should read my face and know I'm not in the mood. I feel that's also a place where people miss it in communication. Yes, there are times whereby we should know some things, but at the same time, I'm not a mind reader. You are not a mind reader. There are some things that you are passing through that don't tell me, I will most likely not know. Never, I won't know. And same thing, vice versa for the man and for the woman. So it's not good to assume. Sometimes we feel this person should know I'm going through this. This person should know this person, and the person actually doesn't know. And the person doesn't even know that anything is happening. So it's very important to speak up. It's very important to speak to your spouse. Don't assume they know. It's better you speak to them and they say, oh yes, I actually knew. That you thinking they knew and they actually never knew. And you can go days, you can go weeks, you can go months with that assumption. And that's not going to be good. So I would say assumption is also very, very bad in terms of communication in couples.
Yeah. So how I see it, I even see it in two perspectives. One, assumption that this person should know how I feel. That's one. Then secondly, assumption of what I think this person is thinking about.
Yeah.
So I see it from two angles like that. Assumption is, okay, from the first angle is, let's say I'm going through a lot of pressure at work, a lot of stress, and I just assume that, well, for my mood, you should just look like I'm stressed. Well, yes, it's possible, but it could be different kind of things that are causing that stress at that moment.
Yeah.
So me saying that, just being clear in my communication. Well, right now I feel a little bit stressed because of ABC. I feel this is how I'm feeling because of this. Then that's the first part. Then the second part is I'm assuming that this is what this person is thinking. So I can also say that here's what I'm feeling. Like, you know, am I right, am I wrong? You tell me in that area.
Very right. Very, very right. And I think I just remember something. I don't know if you're actually going to remember. I think there was a time whereby I think you put out something or something, and I think I needed to reach out to you. Like, I was already like assuming that probably this thing was about this. But when I reached out to you, you're like, no, it's not even about anything about that at all. So if I actually didn't communicate, if I didn't reach out to you to probably just clear the air on that, I'm just going to think, oh, this was about this was about that. And that can actually stray a relationship and stray a marriage when absolutely what I was thinking was actually not it at all.
Yeah, I think I remember that particular scenario. I remember it very well.
So it's some people just assume, most times it's completely not true. It's just nothing can be more false than that. Nothing can be more false. So what I would say is, instead of assuming, what you can do is reach out to the person, your spouse. And once again, this cut across marriage, work, whatever. Reach out to the person, reach out to your spouse, and try to ask questions instead of just assuming and just running with that feeling like, oh, look at the way she spoke to me. Look at the way. Sometimes those things are not true. You just need to probably clear the air. If you are having assumptions about something, just ask questions and clear the air. I think that's going to help a great deal.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And like you said, just clear the air. Even if I'm feeling somehow, I should be able to say, okay, here's how I'm feeling, but I don't want to assume. Or even when you do something that maybe I don't like, one can say, okay, this is how I felt, but I may be wrong. You know, what was your intention? What was your intention? Why did you do what you did? So yeah, assumption. Yeah,
it's assumption is not good in anything whatsoever. You don't just assume. Most times it might actually not be true, and that just sets the ball in motion for something that you might not even be able to handle in the future. If you're assuming, oh, my wife spoke this way, my wife did this, my wife did that, and it's completely not true. You already have something in mind, and anything that person does, you're going to be interpreting it based on what you assume.
Yeah.
And it's just like an endless speech. Only God knows how far that person can or that marriage can go on based on an assumption that is not even true.
Yes, yes. And I feel like it's also why this is key is because it's also going to like help to cut off a lot of conflict in the future. Even things like finance and other areas whereby I'm assuming that, oh, this is what I'm assuming you're on board, or I'm assuming you're on board with this particular pathway. Instead of assuming, we are saying that, okay, can we have a conversation? What do we want to do in this area? How do we want to go in this direction? Rather than me assuming that, I think you'll be okay with it. I just assumed, and just like, well, you know, that's never part of, yeah. Okay. Okay, great. So, what's the next point?
The next point, it looks very basic, but it's very fundamental. Like, when you're communicating, the tone of your voice matters a lot. I know it looks basic, but I can't say it's. No one want to listen to someone who's speaking on top of his own voice. Like, speak respectfully. You don't want me to listen. I'm not going to listen to you when you are speaking on top of your voice. So that looks very basic. That looks very simple. That looks like what everyone knows. But I can tell you that that's not true. Not every people might know this, but some people don't practice it. When I am angry, how do I speak? The tone of my voice. When I feel like I am moving right and I want to correct you, or I want to correct someone else, how do I go about my communication? Do I just say, oh yeah, what you did was wrong, you shouldn't do it this way, and you just skip? It's going to aggravate the situation, because as human beings, we all have our self-worth, our self-respect. Everyone wants to be spoken to nicely and kindly and in a nice way. So it's not going to all go well for me to just feel like, okay, if maybe I feel, in quotes, I assumed, we just talk about assumption. Maybe I assume you did something wrong, and I want to, in quotes, talk to you about it, and I'm speaking on top of my voice. Basically, the two wrongs in quotes are not going to make it right. Let's even assume what you did was wrong, right? Two wrongs are not going to make it right. There are better ways of communicating other than speaking on top. Yeah, some people might say, oh yeah, I have a loud voice, my voice is naturally loud and things like that, yeah. But you can be more conscious in the way you communicate, most especially when it has to do with you correcting someone, when it has to do with you giving feedbacks or doing things like that. It might not be taken well from another person if you're just speaking on top of your voice, like you're trying to command me to do something, like, no.
Okay, yeah. A number of things are running to my mind as you say this. First, culture. Even I put it as second, cultural context, because there are some cultures that the way they when they are talking, they are raising their voice, and you literally think maybe they are fighting, but they're like, no, that's how we. I don't want to mention any culture, like, but. You know, there are some cultures, but again, there was this expert study that was done, I think by Harvard, that was talking about communication, and it says that a larger percent of communication is non-verbal, and very, very, very small amount is the words that is actually being said. So because and when you look at non-verbal communication, you're looking at tone is part of that as well, a part of the non-verbal communication, what is being said. Like, so I also heard someone say that there's a way someone will tell you go to hell, and you will gladly go to hell. Like, you will literally be happy going to hell, and someone say go to hell and you feel insulted. Why would you tell me to go to hell? So that's extremely key. And one of the words you mentioned was the word consciousness, because all these things are things that we most times we know these things, but it's in the application, especially when you are angry.
When you're angry, it's very easy to speak about something. When push comes to shove, then you know.
Great. At that moment, when you're angry, because naturally, when you're angry, your voice begins to rise. Your emotions are like, I don't like this thing, because it's just like a frustration you're just letting out. But like you said, being conscious to know that I need to reduce my tone of voice, and the word you said is respectful. Like, people want to be treated nicely and respectful. So what I'm asking myself in my mind is, even though I'm not happy with what this person is doing at this moment, how can I show respect, right? And again, how I'm even seeing it is, it's not just even respect to the person, respect to myself, right? Because at the end of the day, it's still like how I portray myself, even in terms of an argument. So by doing that, I'm not just even respecting that person, I'm also respecting myself, because I don't want to find myself in a place whereby I'm out of control. And also like help me wire myself to know that, okay, how do I always want to present myself even in times of conflict, rather than me raising my voice. Again, it's not easy at all. It's not easy, especially when you are really frustrated. But they say the first part of change is that awareness. Yeah.
Like I said, it's a conscious thing, and don't feel bad if probably watching this and you feel like, oh, when I'm angry, I just yell at my husband or my wife, and I just yell at my children, and you don't need to feel bad at yourself. We're all work in progress. I wouldn't say I'm 100% there, no. But first of all, if you fall into that category, first of all, admit that you fall into that category. Now begin to take conscious steps and effort to make sure that doesn't happen. Or you try to curb that. When you're angry, even if it takes some time, just be quiet or something. There has to be mechanisms for you, coping mechanisms for that. Because like I said, it can affect relationships, it can affect communication. When you're always angry, you always yell, you always shout, you always throw tantrums, and you always do those things. I feel things can be done a better way. So don't feel bad if you fall in that shoes. Everyone is work in progress, but try as much as possible to begin to look at what you can do to help yourself, help your relationship with your spouse, and even relationship with your children as well. You don't want to be known by your children as someone who always probably shout all the time or yell all the time. No, you don't want to have that kind of relationship with your children.
Yeah, and you touch a number of things, and there are times whereby one can be yelling and one say like, oh, you're raising your voice, and then you can be like, I'm not raising my voice. This is how I'm speaking. So again, it's that conscious thing to know that I can express my frustration without yelling. And you mentioned children, because sometimes I feel like, stop that thing, stop what you're doing. Again, what we do when we do that is that we are making the child to feel like, I have to shout for me to pass. Yes, so it's a caution to us as parents, every one of us, that because there are people who they've learned that act whereby when they tell the child stop it, the child knows. So you don't, until the child is like waiting until you yell stop it, mommy or daddy, they are not yet ready. When you yell at them, yes, mommy and daddy is ready. So I think it's something that, is this possible? Yes, it's a possibility. Can we get there? Yes, it's possible we can get there. Then how do we do it to get better? And viewers, like, let's hear your view also on this particular, because I'm like, oh, I just can't control it when I am angry, like my tone of voice rises. But for me, one of the way I appreciate it is just that, am I just out of control when I'm frustrated, right? Or how can I still hold myself together even when I am frustrated? It's a challenge. It's a lot of work, and because it's easy to say this thing, but when you get into the heat of the argument, then you now
when you are done, then you remember like, oh my goodness.
Yes, you know whether what you are saying you're actually putting it into practice or not. Or even when the children are offending, you're like, okay, I know I talk about yelling, but am I doing that now? So yeah, I think that's our third point.
Yeah, I just want to say something that people are practicing. I know you told me about someone as well who practiced that, and personally I was in a meeting for a couple of months ago, and we were very happy because of some things that happened, and I noticed someone amongst us, he wasn't also happy, but I tell you, the tone of his voice was constant. Like, I really admired him for that. I was like, come on, I think I told you, every one of us were like a bit over, because what happened, it wasn't good enough, it was bad. But he wasn't, like, you knew he wasn't happy, but I could see the way he spoke. He wasn't speaking on top of his voice. He maintained the tone of voice, and he was still able to pass. Because I think what we think is, when we are angry or when we are not happy, we feel the way to pass that information at that time, that I'm not happy with you, is by just doing that. But I tell you, I was at the meeting, so I was there. And he was still able to pass what he wanted to pass across, but he did it in a way that I really admire. So, like you said, there are people that actually practicing this thing. It's not, we're not talking about things that is not possible. It's an art. It's something that you probably try and maybe fail, rise up again, continue to do. But if you keep at it, that you want to get to the level whereby you are able to control yourself, especially when you're angry, when you're communicating, I believe it's very, very possible.
Yes, and this thing is also our background and our training has a lot of things. For example, we are Nigerians, right? And in Nigeria, there's hardly when you see people when they are angry that they don't raise their voice. It's not possible. I even feel like some of the things that we even pick up are even things we see in society, or even let me even start from the bus conductor. Give me my. It's just as if the way. Imagine you saying that scene every morning, every day you enter. There's this. Your voice, so it's as if that when you are even soft, like you've not changed, when people say I will change it for you. So it's as if you just feel like that's how you communicate. You communicate like if you've not changed it for the person does not know whether you are serious or not. So the day you are talking what's wrong with this? So you are talking dear like I was dear means like gentle. So you have to.
Yeah, people bring that into marriage. Mm-hmm. When you have done that for 25, 30 years or whatever years before, you bring that same template into marriage, and you feel that you want to also do that in marriage. Then that's where there's most likely going to be problems.
Yeah, and now the thing is, and the funny thing is that this thing is even very hard, because imagine this is how you know how to communicate. Then you now get into marriage and you now feel like all of a sudden you will now change. Because it's even easy for you to say, okay, like a woman, the word of God said you should submit to your husband, and obviously most men are older than their wife, you have to be respectful. But there are some men who they feel like if you don't shout for the woman, she won't understand. You have to shout for her, charge to her. So that's in that case whereby they feel like, well, I'm much more older, I'm the man, so I should, if you do something that is wrong, this is how I should charge. And so it's almost something like people don't even see to say that, am I even doing this thing wrong? Or the children, you snap at them. And this is why I'm saying this is because if you now come to a culture now, like the US, whereby your boss might just be talking to you gently, gently. There's no drama, nothing. But what they are saying, you just see that they'll just go back like your performance this thing. They'll just write, you'll be like, but the person was talking to me gently. We are not enemies, so all I'm just saying is that A, B, C, D. So it can even come as a culture shock. You will even see your manager like maybe shout. No, just calmly saying what they are saying. This is what you've done wrong. That is what we expect you to make some changes. But in your performance review or whatever, any decision that needs to be made, no drama, nothing, and
Very true. I know we took a lot of time on this specific point, but yeah, it was what it's.
Yeah.
Because it looks very simple, but I think many people get stuck at this point for various reasons of which we have been able to cover.
Yes.
Few of it. So the summary for this point is work on it. Try as much as possible. When you are speaking to someone, be very self-conscious, be self-aware, especially when you're angry, about the way you speak, your verbal and especially your verbal and even your non-verbal communication. I don't want us to even go to the non-verbal aspect. We're just talking about the verbal, but there's the way you can see a person and the non-verbal expression is completely off. But we're actually focusing right now on even the verbal communication in terms of just speaking or just yelling or the tone of a voice. But yeah, I think we can move to another point.
Okay.
So that another thing I'm going to say is the timing of communication. Now, this is tricky because some people will say strike it when it's hot, right? So some people, when something happens, they just want to give it to the person, they just want to say things, they just want to, and at that point, the person might most likely not even be in the right frame of mind to speak. So And the Bible says, be quick to hear, be slow to speak, and be slow to wrath, right? So how about giving it time to probably think? And I've seen this over and over again. Sometimes you feel the person did something wrong, but when you take time to actually reflect, it's not as difficult or as bad as it looked like at the beginning, sorry. So if you probably give yourself time to probably reflect and look at it, and like, probably if you had responded at the heat of the moment at that time, you probably would have overreacted, and it would just be like throwing eggs at your face. So one thing I recommend is, it's difficult as well, just like the point we just talked about earlier, but it's more about taking time to process it. Sometimes, like I said, it's not as difficult as you think, but looking at the right time is also very important. For instance, if I did something that you don't like, when's the best time that you can probably bring that thing forward? There has to be proper timing. You need to understand your spouse, you need to understand people, you need to know the right time to bring. Don't just come and say, oh, you did this thing wrong, and it's just going to aggravate it. But they can be specific. I won't say, some people might feel morning, some people might feel evening. I'm not going to say different time, but you know your spouse, you know the person you are living with. You know the times where you can bring in something, and it's just going to diffuse and just melt that situation, rather than bringing something in the heat of the moment, because you just want to say your mind, you want to say it the way it is. No. I'm a factual person. I don't keep things. I must say it the way it is. Things can be done in a better way.
Yes, and now that you say that, it reminds me of the scripture that says, "Love is patience." Is patient, and because this thing it requires patience, because you'll be like, okay, something has happened that you're not happy with. Can I exercise some patience and then bring this matter? Because at that heat of the moment, you are really angry and like want to say, I don't like what you did, right? Or this is how I felt, but can I exercise some patience and then bring this matter later? And I think the word that we can keep is, love is patient. So even patience in the timing at which you bring up a particular issue. And then also on this matter, on when I bring issue, when you are arguing about a matter, that's not when you now say, oh, you two, you did this same thing, you will bring it up. It doesn't help communication. Like, this person is actually saying that this is what I don't like that you did. Now that you now bring another matter again, like, okay, you two, you did this one. So like 1 + 1 equals, cancel out 0, 0, 1, 1. That is not helpful. So you two, can you also be patient to keep your own matter now? When you have resolved this one, at another appropriate time, say, okay, I agree, I admit that I did this one, but I also think that you could also make some adjustments in this area. So it's not like you are bringing it at that moment. So love is patient. Also means I'm patient in my timing at which I'm bringing out my issues to be addressed. Yep.
Patience is key. And also to add that we're not talking about situations of life and death. Now, there will be some times whereby
absolutely,
the person needs to speak up. Of course, we have talked about how to speak earlier, right? So there will be some times whereby what you are saying, to be addressed immediately. We're not talking about things that are life defining, that needs to be sorted out ASAP. So just wanted to throw that light as well.
Okay, so thank you, viewers, for listening to us. So can we just recite some or just recall some of the things we discussed? I think the first one we discussed was
listening to understand.
Listening to understand.
To respond.
The second one was on assumption. The third one we mentioned the tone, and then the last one, the timing.
Yeah.
That's the 4 things we have covered for this particular episode. So we have come to the end of this one, but we do have other subsequent one that we would put out there. So tell us how how these 4 come across. But I also want us to do one thing, is just remind ourselves, because these things, like you said, are easier said than done. So reminding ourselves that, okay, this week, even as I deal with my spouse, I remember to listen to understand. This week, as I work with my spouse, communicate with my spouse, I do not want to assume. So I will ask questions, This week, as I'm working with my spouse, I'm going to be conscious of my tone. And this week, as I'm working with my spouse, I also want to be conscious of the timing. So that's our weekly challenge for this week. Is that something that interests you?
Yeah, of course, yeah. Applicable to everyone, including us. So, yeah, that works.
Okay, great. So thank you for being with us. Tell us what you feel about the show. We want to continue to put this out there, but at the same time, really want to know what are the top things in your mind. Please feel free to DM us questions or any topics that you find interesting that we can probably just talk about as well. Last words on this episode for our viewers.
God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for watching. God bless you.